Hello, ladies. Good evening. Good morning to some of you. Honeyhead. Hi, Besma. Hi, Marianne. Hi, Nihed. How's everybody doing today? Hang on. I just got to send the reminder message to my family. All right. Wonderful. How's everybody today?
Good, alhamdulillah. All is fine.
Alhamdulillah. 7 o'clock. Let's start. Let's just take a few minutes before we get into the book. I do want to talk about what you're supposed to be doing in terms of food and the detoxing. Some of you have been actually on the fruit, or at least fruits and vegetables only, for several weeks now, coming onto a month. So definitely it's time to revisit, reevaluate. Let's see how you want to move forward, if you want to move forward. You can actually continue to do this if you're feeling good. If you're not feeling good and you still want to keep going in order to feel good, by all means, there's no danger in doing this. If you feel like you've satisfied yourself, you proved it to yourself that you can do a potentially fruit and vegetable detox for this long, and you're feeling good and you're ready to reintroduce more of a day-to-day, lifestyle, not a very deep cleansing lifestyle, then this is what you can do. Here's what I'm going to tell you what I do, and then sort of the variations around it. I typically in my day-to-day will eat more fruits the whole day. And then at dinner time, or the last meal with my family, some of you in Egypt will call it lunch. For us, it's the last meal between 5 and 6 typically, is where, depending on how I'm feeling, depending on the time of month, depending on, what leading up to that period is, will determine whether that meal will include protein or not. So usually during my day, breakfast, lunch, and all the snacks and anything I eat until 5 o'clock is fruit based, maybe fruit and vegetable based. And then dinner time can be just vegetables, like how we do in the liver detox, or this is where I add in my protein. And for the past while, I've been doing either steak or salmon. I have not been able to stomach chicken, or it's not working with me. It gives me a little bit of digestive upset. I'm kind of turned off from it. So that's usually what I do. So you can keep doing what you're doing, because remember that raw foods are the ones that are the most potent when it comes to nutrients. Whether you're like intentionally detoxing to heal, or you just want to be filling your body with nutrients because that's what is the best type of fuel. So I intentionally do that throughout the day so that the bulk of what I'm eating every single day is more raw. And then dinner is where my cooked foods come in. So whether that's cooked vegetables alone or cooked vegetables with protein. So if you haven't added in any vegetables yet, I would say that would be your first step. Have that one meal at the end of the day that is any kind of cooked vegetables that you want, and some salad. If you've already added vegetables to one meal, then I would say the next step for you would be to add one piece of animal protein. Any questions about that? Super simple. Don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, I have a son.
Go ahead, Nihan.
Okay, I want to ask. I want to add vegetables.
Okay.
I don't mind having them steamed or even boiled,
Okay.
but I want to have a dressing or something to
Yeah.
make them juicy. So I could you share some dressings with us that are healthy?
For salad or for like
For
marinade?
both, actually. I like my stuff to be saucy. And I can if even when I boil potatoes, I make sure I keep some of the water that I boil them
Okay.
in because I like them to be a bit يعني كده like a soup كده شوية. So
Okay. I can look some things up, but off the top of my head,
is it okay to use tahina?
yeah, I was
You,
just gonna say, I'm also looking, Besma, similar question. So if we're going to add in animal protein, And if you're not, and you're adding in vegetables, and so basically we're adding in a little bit of fat. So yes to the olive oil, and yes to olive oil in cooking, and yes to the sauces. Tahina is a great one to start with. So tahina is great for drizzling on salads. It's great for drizzling on cooked vegetables. It's a great fat. It's a great source of calcium. You can make a whole bunch and keep it in the fridge. So in terms of preparation, it's very practical. You can definitely also then add in olive oil marinades if you are going to, especially if you're going to roast vegetables, right? You can mix olive oil with herbs, any kind of herbs, with garlic, with onions. Usually garlic, olive oil is the one I use the most in cooking. You're not going to get saucy. It's not like it's not like a soupy sauce, but it's going to give flavor. So you can definitely use that. What's the other thing I use as a sauce? Avocado tends to be one of those raw ingredients that can be turned into a sauce. So blended, and I can share a recipe for that, blended with other herbs and garlic and olive oil and lemon, that can be a great salad dressing as well as something to drizzle over your vegetables. Let me look up a few. Those are the ones that I've used and I just know off the top. The other one is what's it called? It's like, is it a Mexican name? I can never remember, but it's like lots of parsley chopped up really, really, really small. Again, I think with olive oil and garlic. You all know it, and I know it. I just can't think of the name. I'll pull up that recipe and share it. This is also a delicious one to put on all vegetables as well. And actually protein. If you want your protein, if you grill it and it's really dry, obviously we're not cooking with a lot of sauces. You want to drizzle this one on protein. That also works on protein. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But Nihed, if you could tag me in the group just in case, just as a reminder that tomorrow morning I can share that with all of you.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
I have a short comment. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Marianne. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I have started a bit late with the food, because of Easter and
Yes.
and festivities and so on. So I started a week ago, and it's going okay.
Wonderful.
Although I have toothache and it's like hay fever.
Hang on, Marianne, I can't hear you. I'm just gonna turn off my AC so I can hear you better. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
A toothache and hay fever. And I think maybe it's one of the ways to bring out the toxins. Is it correct?
Yes.
And then after that, I thought that I will stick to a 10-day period of only fruits. And then afterwards, I will try in the evening maybe to bring in some vegetables.
Okay. That works. That works.
Okay.
Everything you're feeling right now, any kind of symptom that is conventionally labeled as a problem, runny nose, headaches, body aches, any of that, those are all healing symptoms. Remind yourself of that all the time. This is not the body breaking down. This is the body adapting to what you're giving it. It's responding to what you're giving it. So we are intentionally detoxing. So this is how it's going to release the toxin. So work with it and don't suppress any of the symptoms, because the symptoms are, enclosed within the mucus, within the headaches, within the runny nose, within the diarrhea are the toxins that the body's trying to get rid of. So there's nothing to worry about at all. Rest as much as you can if you're able to, and it will pass.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? If you just joined, we're just taking a few minutes to talk about the detox before we get into the book, The Prophet. Sandra, go ahead.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. My question is, so I did the fruits only for the last 2 weeks,
Okay.
and then gradually I started to introduce the vegetables, as you said, only potatoes and salad.
Okay.
But I've been experiencing like headaches like Marianne was saying, but I don't know, is it because the quantity of the fruit is less, or is it part of what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Or is it because I introduced the potatoes, or was it the oil that the potato was cooked with? I have no idea.
So you
But
mean
I'm not
during
feeling well at all.
so during the 2 weeks of fruits, you didn't have any
I was
symptoms, no
fine.
headaches, no nothing.
No,
And then,
I was fine.
and then potatoes with olive oil.
I don't know how it was cooked. I was outside, so that's when I needed to just, like eat
Okay.
something. So I had the potatoes and salad. The salad was with olive oil, yes, but the potato, I don't know how it was cooked, but it was in the oven.
Okay.
So that's why I said it maybe
Yeah.
to have it.
And
then
did you
yeah,
have it
sorry.
again? Did you have it again, or was just the one time?
No, 2 times. 3 times, sorry, 3 times.
And all of them outside the house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's the seed oils. Anything made
Mhm.
in any restaurant, anywhere in the world is going to use seed oils. They will never use a high quality olive oil. Maybe they use olive oil in the dressing, but even the olive oils they use in the dressing are of low quality. So this is not surprising at all that you would
Okay.
have to get a headache from
The
this.
oil.
Yeah.
And my stomach as well is reacting. So that's why it's like I didn't eat anything, just potatoes and salad.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the seed
So it's the
oil.
oil.
Seed oils, potentially cross-contamination with something that contains gluten. If they use flour in the kitchen for, anything else, potentially using seasoning that's got MSG in it. Anything is possible when you eat out.
Okay.
Yeah. But this
The
is,
other thing
I
is,
mean, it's uncomfortable for you, but it's such a clear correlation, right? So don't worry about it. Like you didn't do anything wrong. The body's not suddenly malfunctioning. It's literally responding to seed oils and inferior quality cooking raw materials.
the thing is like, because I'm the last 3 days I was out all day.
Mm.
I did have my smoothie with me, and I did have my fruit with me, but only it lasted me, like part of the day, not the whole day. So I tried to look for a herbal tea, for example, outside. No, they don't have it. So I was trying to find anything. I couldn't find anything. So I had to eat something because the headache was like driving me insane.
Yeah.
So that's why I ate what I have. But I mean, it's not okay. I know you're gonna say like wait, because I'm talking negatively to myself, but I mean, like, it's not actually easy to do outside the house. I mean, I was able to do it for the last 2 weeks because I was off and the kids were off.
Yeah.
Once we're back to school and I'm back to work, I mean, things are not going as easy as before. So that's my
I was
challenge.
going to tell you that because you ate out, like I said, we know what happened. I would be more concerned if you were eating at home and you were eating everything, the ingredients, that you're not using oil, and then you're still getting a headache 2 weeks in. We could still say detox symptoms, but I would be more concerned with that. It is going to happen that we are going to eat out. Okay, remember, I tell you this from the very beginning, ladies, we don't live in bubbles. We do live a life that includes eating out. So when you do eat out, this is not a reason to feel guilty or having to like justify it. It is what it is, because that's just the way our lives are. It's just how our lives are built. What can I say? Unless you decide to go live, on a farm, and some people do, or you want to go live out, in a tropical forest. We don't live like that. So there will be times when we're going to eat out. As long as you're very clear on what potentially can be triggered for you when you eat out, and you know how to go back and rebalance that, that's all that matters. But there's no way that any of us are going to be 100% detoxing, 100% clean 100% of the time. So don't beat yourself up about this. It's going to happen. What you're learning and what you're gathering in terms of information from your body is how to mitigate this, right? How to create the system where you can, so what if that happens? I come back, I know how to rebalance myself again. And more importantly, I know what the trigger is. This is data for you. So maybe you don't go eat in this place again. Maybe you just go and have a salad next time. Maybe next time if you're doing more clean eating, maybe you can just ask for something grilled, potentially that won't have anything else on it. There are ways around it. But always just look at it as an opportunity for you to collect information. How does eating in this restaurant make me feel? How does eating in this restaurant make me feel? They're all,
بعتها لك.
none of them are going to be using ingredients at the standard of ingredients you're going to be using at home. But some of them are way worse than others, right? Some of them, you can go eat there and even if you didn't eat something 100% clean, you might feel a little bit, not yourself, but less than someplace else. And all of us eat in different places. So that's just a bit of research on your part. Like, I know that I will go eat in certain restaurants and I will feel awful. I'll go eat in other restaurants and it's all right. My body's actually not too bad. So have that list for yourself. So when you find yourself out, if there's a priority list, like here's the best place, here's the one that's so-so, here's the one that's really bad, which is the one that's closest to me? Can I get to the one where that causes me the least reactions? And then just make the decision, eat, be done with it, go home and rebalance. It's that simple.
Okay.
All right.
Yes. And do we have, I mean, I heard that Glow, they do like the juicing and all this. I tried to look them up, but currently they're on a break. Do we
Oh.
have another company that's doing the same thing?
I don't know. I didn't know that Glow was on a break.
I just like, like I need the help with like providing the juices if I want to do like, like more than
Yeah.
2 or 3 times a day at juices. I was just considering because mine is just a berry smoothie over and over.
Yeah.
So I just wanted something for a change instead of me doing it. But
I don't know. I mean, there's lychee, but they're very inferior ingredients and they're not fresh. And every time I've had something from there, a juice, it tasted awful. Not to mention what it did to my stomach, so I cannot recommend them. Um, I actually don't know. I can't recommend. There must be, but I can't recommend anybody except Glow at this point in time. And
Dana, what about Good Day? Do they make any juices?
Good Day, I haven't heard of them.
Not Good Day. Remember when we went on that camp together and you brought us some
Be Good.
Be Good. Be Good. Do they make any juices?
Be Good. No, they don't. They're only dry baked goods, so the bread, some desserts, things like that.
Can we use their stuff?
When you're in clean eating, yes. So she's got the desserts, she's got uh the breads. I haven't tried, but she's got many, many, many versions of bread. So things that are dairy free, I believe the last time I checked, dairy free, egg free, dairy and egg free, grain free, things that are just with nuts. So she has quite the range as far as I remember. But yeah, yes, you can use her products. I really don't know, Sandra, anybody who does smoothies.
that's okay then. I'll try to be more creative and do it.
I just came across a site, actually. One of my neighbors here has created this. And I think I had put it in the resources for the 21-day detox. But then I took it off because, let me put it in the chat, because she put the website up and it was active and then it wasn't active. And then she came back and she made it active again. And it's got a lot of things. I put it here in the chat. she has gathered lots and lots of suppliers all together in one place of fruits, vegetables, protein, I think, like almond milk, things like that. I don't know if she has smoothies specifically on her site, but maybe one of the suppliers that she's using might be somebody who can also provide something like that. So if you want, you can go look on there, sort of, dig around a bit, do your own research and look into the suppliers and see maybe that might lead you to something.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about detoxing, moving on from the fruit vegetable detox? Any questions about that before we talk about the book? All right. Okay. So we are talking about the Prophet today. First time read for me. Never gone through it. I'd always just come across passages, the way people will share like a passage on social media or something like that. So first time for me to read the full thing from beginning to end. I was a bit surprised that I was expecting, I think, a story, like a story with a plot, beginning, middle, end, and was not unpleasantly surprised, but surprised that it was more of, teachings, more of, it sort of spoke to me a little bit like Clarity and Connection in terms of things to, universal truths, human truths, things to think about, things about, ourselves as individuals, collectively, as human beings. So I wasn't expecting that. But of course, by the end of it, it is one of those books where you can't just read it once and get what you need from it. It is definitely one of those, like Clarity and Connection, where I believe for me, it would benefit me a lot especially that it's sort of also categorized, into certain topics, like when you need help with, reflecting on grief or reflecting on love or reflecting on, on giving or on work or on whatever it is. It's very specific. It's something you can go back to and it gives you something to think about, maybe something to journal about. So overall, yes, I loved it. Definitely something I will go back and reread, but it was definitely a surprise in the way that it was presented to me. Anybody else have initial first impressions of the book they'd like to share?
Well, if I could start,
Yes, please.
I also had the same impressions as you have. I mean, like you said, I thought it was a storybook. It's a small one. We could read it in 2-3 hours. But then I was positively surprised that it's about certain topics in life.
Yes.
I mean, I can't say all the topics, but for me, it was the important ones. And as you said, I have taken nearly 2 weeks to finish it because one day it's one topic and then on the other day it's one or two others and so on and so on. So I loved it and I will certainly go back to it again if I need something about a certain topic.
It took me long. It took a lot longer for me to read it than I thought also, because I'm like, oh, this is a nice short book. I can read this in a day. No, it definitely did not. It could not, because I had to reread a lot of it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You don't just get it like when you're reading a book and you can sort of follow along the storyline. So definitely, I mean, I know I had told you guys, oh, it's easy, read it quick and get it out of the way.
In 2 hours.
I haven't read it yet. And then I read it and realized, no, it's not like that. So yeah, definitely a slow, deceptively slow read, but definitely worth it. Anybody else with initial first impressions?
Well, yeah, I think the same as what you and Mariana said, and I was surprised too. I thought it was just, yani, it's like life lessons. This
Yeah.
is what you should do, and but you don't do this, and this is what it's like a kind of a bit of a life guide.
Yes.
And I started reading. I saw Ramallah, and I started reading Siddhartha as well alongside, Yani.
Okay.
Because I for me, I like a book to be a story. I'm not a poem person, and I didn't find it was not poetry for me.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it was a poem.
Yeah.
So but it's okay. I have to go back and read it again too, because I lost focus sometimes. I would just keep reading and reading, and then at the end, what did you come out with, Nihed? Nothing, because it wasn't much of a story. So this is my impression. Okay.
Yeah. So his style is very, I think the reason why we kept reading and rereading, me anyway, is that his sentences are very dense, and then it feels like every word and every sentence is very symbolic. You have to deconstruct almost every single sentence. Like very few of the sentences in there are straightforward. Everything has a second meaning, a third meaning, a deeper meaning. So this is why it would take time. Besma was too choppy for me, and the use of language wasn't flowing. Not so easy to read. No, not easy to read at all. I think one of the reasons I was surprised also is because when people share passages, and this was my only experience of this book before, when you see a little 2 lines on an Instagram reel, or somebody shares a little post on Facebook of like something significant from it, you're just taking this 2 or 3 sentences, so it's bite size, it's manageable. But then when you add all of that sort of to a large collection, it boggles the mind. It got quite confusing for me, even though I couldn't get into the details, and that's just because I need to go back and read it again. But the depth of it wasn't lost on me. What I knew I needed to understand was to give myself a chance to understand the depth. I have not done that yet. To understand that, to go in and really, really delve into the depth of the meanings of the words, I haven't done that. And I think a book like that needs that. So it needs a lot more time. It needs a lot more time with the language. It needs a lot more time with the symbolism, which might be a deterrent. I can see that for a lot of people. But I also think that if we give ourselves a chance with it again, there's a lot more to unfold. I believe anyway. Anybody else want to share? You mean neither? I agree about which part, Basma? I'm guessing Basma's probably gonna type her answer. Sandra, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that because we are exposed now to more books like sound like that, so that's why we weren't like super impressed. But I can imagine the time where it was written, it was, it was something different. It was I would have imagined it was nice and refreshing and nice to read. The thing is, it's because it's a little bit close to Tuesdays with Morrie, or the other way around. Tuesdays with
I haven't
Morrie.
read that. I haven't read that. Okay.
Exactly like this one.
Okay.
So that's why I'm used, like I read that style before, and this is my second time reading The Prophet.
Okay.
But I did not remember anything of before. But I did like the one about the joy and sorrow. I like that one.
Okay. How come?
I don't have the book right now in front of me. I can get it, but I liked it. I like how, like it's something that you cannot separate, and it tells you like the things that you actually that brings you joy are the ones that can cause, like, because you feel the sorrow because these are the things that caused you joy, and vice versa. So he linked them together, like, like
Mm.
they're not separate. So, in, so I like that. I like the one about time.
Mm.
But I can get the book and read exactly what I liked about time. So I'll give a chance to someone else to speak, and I'll get the book.
All right. Let me just see, Basma. I haven't gotten into the symbolism either. I agree that we need to dig deeper. Yeah, this is not, I'm, mistaken to think this was a quick read. Definitely not a quick read. Takes time to dig deeper, 100%. Dina, go ahead.
So I actually liked it, but I found myself, kind of like tagging certain parts because I want to go back and read it in a much more thoroughly.
Yes.
It's hard to just read it quickly and get so many parts of it resonated with me, and brought some light into how I'm thinking. And yeah, this may be true, this may be not, this is not the way I like it, this is the way I like it. But it needs more time. So I tagged certain parts that I really liked and want to go back and read it again and kind of like spend time, meditating on it. Like read the part and just, think about it for a while.
Yes. Yes.
Not read the whole book at one time.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
that's,
I'm sure this is what everybody's looks like. Like mine is.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, we have some work to do here. Can anybody just look up quickly when the book was written? I didn't actually look that up, but I love you. I love how you say, Dina, it's like you need to meditate on a certain passage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think meditate, I think journal for me is something that would really, really help me to figure out some of the symbolism and the meanings and what he's getting at. When was it written?
1923.
1920? And was it written originally in what language? I also didn't check that. Was it written in Arabic or English or French?
It's not written.
I'll be curious to find out.
I
Because
mean, he lived in Lebanon,
he's
and then
Lebanese. Yeah.
and then in Syria,
Mm.
and then he went to the States, and he died in 1931.
Okay. So he might have written it in English to start, but it'll be interesting to see. I don't know about the book, the copy you guys have, but mine has his illustrations. Did any of you get a copy that has Basma original in English? Okay. These are
No,
his
I don't have it like that.
illustrations. Does
Mhm.
anybody get a copy like that? Mine is just, I didn't order it like that. It just came that way.
Yeah, mine is like that. It's
Yeah.
the same copy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a whole other level I didn't even look into. His illustrations and what he might possibly be trying to teach us with that. But I mean, he was also a pretty good artist. I mean, not just good with words, but good with his pencil. Um, but I think it's really interesting because this is one of those books that's kind of it's one of those books you hear your like I heard my dad talk about from many, many years ago, you know. And it's sort of like one of those legend books, but you just don't get around to reading it, like I said, until there's a reason to. And I can see now why it's a must read, but at the same time, I can see why it can, it's also very much, it really makes you see where your flaws are, and that's not ever easy to read. You know, especially I think I'm just going to have to pull them out for me.
I found something.
Yes.
The Prophet was his fourth book, and it was in English. It was published in 1923.
Yeah. Originally English. So I think like for me, one of the things that on the chapter Crime and Punishment, right? I think it really, really was a kind of a wake up. You know how we always say that don't play the victim, and that nobody can make you feel anything, and that nobody can make you angry or sad or depressed, that you have a responsibility in basically how you curate your life and how you feel and how you move through life. And for me, that was one of the deeper messages of this, that that you have a responsibility. Like even if you're the murdered, or the robbed is not blameless in being robbed. The murdered is not unaccountable for his own murder. So basically, to never, ever really, there's no excuse to be a victim ever. Literally, even if you're the murdered one. So this was one of the passages that really makes you feel, it picks at scabs, your scabs that you need to work on, the things that you kind of ignore, and the things you think that you're doing a good job in and you're not. So a lot of these passages brought up that feeling for me of where I still need more work, I guess, to put it better than saying my flaws. I wonder if anybody else had that experience. And lots of other passages made me feel that way, but this is the main one that really hits home in terms of how deep everybody's personal responsibility is in what happens to them in their life. Did anybody have a similar experience in terms of wake up calls through the passages?
I think I did have the same feeling when he was speaking about giving and the difference between how you can give when you're happy to give or you're not, or you think this person deserves to be given or not, and stuff like that. And and it kind of like struck me when I read it, because you go through that sometimes when you want to give someone, but then you say, oh, he's not a hard worker, or he doesn't, he's not working, so he doesn't deserve, or, stuff like that. He needs to work more so that I can give him more, things like that. So it kind of like, it felt to me like, oh, I need to work on myself when I'm thinking of giving to others,
Yeah. It's just supposed to be giving for the sake of giving, and that's it.
Exactly. But it's not. And that's what he highlighted here. And it kind of like, I was like, oh my God, I need to work on that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we can all relate to this, even because you said it, like your instinct is just to give, right?
Exactly.
And a lot of what he talks about is what we already know intuitively. So everything he's describing on some level, he's saying, you already know this on some level. So when you say, I go and give without thinking, because that's what your intuition is telling you, but then your logic comes in and says, but wait, is this person deserving? Maybe there's an expectation of something. So a big theme, I think, in what he's writing here is that he's not really telling us something new. He's telling us something, we're all going to respond to it a little bit differently, and the different passages and the different subjects we're going to connect with maybe more deeply than others. But when you think about it, what he's saying is he's telling us what we already know about.
But now, I imagine back in 1923, this was completely new.
Right. Yes. I mean, now we're all doing the work, right? We're all getting into personal development and personal responsibility and discovering ourselves. And yes, of course, back in 1923, this was, and probably why he had to put it in the format of the prophet. Like it's divine. Like, here's why you should listen to this, not just something written by a coach or a guru or somebody who did some research, but it's actually like, this is what, here's why you should listen to this. This is actually like I don't want to say divine prophecy, but it's coming through a bigger source.
Speaking about giving, one sentence struck me, and that when he wrote, and there are those who give with pain, and that pain is their baptism. Is it? And then I started to think about it. Is it when let's say someone is being exploited and he has to give because of of guilt feelings, for example.
Anybody have a answer to that or an idea or thought about that?
I couldn't hear properly what was just said then.
Oh, Marianne, can you repeat?
Oh
Yeah.
yes, it's a sentence on giving, and there in the middle, well, in the first third of the chapter, he writes, and there are those who give with pain, and that pain is it's baptism. So I began to think, is it when one gives too much and one feels like one is being exploited, it causes the pain.
Which leads to the baptism.
Yes.
Hmm.
And then afterwards, okay, I won't give anymore.
Ah.
Then, because in a baptism, you wake up into a new, how do you say, a new status of mind.
Marianne, do you know what page this is on?
Well, I have the small book. It's not the book that you have.
Okay, so but it's the one on the chapter on pain.
On giving.
On giving. Okay, not the one on pain.
Let's see.
Or maybe I just I could get it in a different way, or maybe
Yes.
when
Yeah,
really when
there's
someone
no right
is
or wrong. There's no right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe when really someone is in pain or they pass through a certain grief. So maybe their way of giving their way of making this grief less or working through the healing process is actually giving more. And maybe that's the baptism.
Hmm.
I personally have found a great difficulty with that book. I tried the English, and for me, it was like Macbeth. So I went to the Arabic,
Oh.
and I found that no, it's just like it needs more thinking, much more thinking, and because of the symbolism, I couldn't. It was hard. I think it's one of those books that need more time.
And again, whatever you come up with in terms of the symbolism for you, the beauty of these books that there's no right or wrong. So your interpretation of it or what you think the message he's trying to convey, some of them are very obvious universal truths, but something that can be more specific to you, there's no right or wrong. So this simplifies the process when you let go of the expectation that you're supposed to analyze it correctly, or you're supposed to come up with the right symbolism, or you're supposed to come up with the right correlations. There is no right and wrong when it comes to these types of books, or any book, really.
And this one specifically, from what I read online, that this is the most read book after the Quran and the Bible. So it seems like
Really?
it has, yes, it's the most read book after both. So I believe it made me self-conscious that I need to understand it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
go ahead.
actually, me too, because I think he was brought up in a Maronite church or convent. So I think maybe his writings come a bit from the Bible. Like, for example, some sentences about love. And then I immediately thought,
the ones
love.
about the ones about love is actually
Yes.
verses from the Bible.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, it does obviously have it's a spiritual book, right? And in terms of the ideas that are in there, they're universal to all faiths, I believe. And obviously he titles it The Prophet, so it's just inherent in the title that this is going to be a book of, a spiritual book rooted in faith. But I don't know. I feel like, I mean, that's a very interesting fact that it's the third most read book in the world. I can see why, but I did not know. I didn't definitely didn't know that. Um,
Um,
let's
I
go ahead.
I want to come back to what Lermine said
Hmm.
about pain.
Yes.
Maybe, I mean, another interpretation would be that one gives when one, let's say, is sick and has pains, and then he gives out. So maybe it helps heal the pain. I mean, it could be
Yeah.
another thought.
Well, in that section, he talks about different ways, to give. And those who give with pain, those who give and know not pain, those who give, in yonder valley, those who give with joy. So there's different ways of giving. I guess this is what he's saying, right? That if as long as you are you believe in 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 life, you believe in sort of the bounty, you believe in I guess what is just true to you at some level that you want to share. I think that's what I got from it. People give in different ways. It could be of yourself, it could be something material. It could be you share a thought, you share an idea, you share a way of living. Like there's so many different ways for me, that's what I understood it to mean anyway. Like not necessarily giving uh, a material object, that it could be anything you share of yourself, you give of yourself is considered giving. Has there been, as you read it, I know we're sharing initial, and passages we like, but was there a passage specifically? There's lots. I know there's lots, but is there one that, as you read it, whether it was confusing or not, whether you got all the symbolism or not, but was there one that stayed with you the longest out of all of
For for me, it was about the children.
them? Which one?
Although although I don't have any children of my own,
Mm.
uh, uh, when he said that the parents bring children, but the children are not theirs.
They come through you, but they're not yours or something like that.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
and then I thought, actually, it's a good thing because the parents bring the children, and then the children carry on the Spirit of God with them.
Mm.
So they are somehow free spirits, if I may say.
Yeah.
But
They don't belong to us.
I like the idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we think that our children belong to us, but he's saying no, they just come through you, but they don't belong to you. That's a different
I
that's a
like the bit
difficult
as
one to
well
grapple with.
mentioned in the same chapter that Marianne is saying about the bow and the arrow, the symbolism about the bow and the arrow, that the arrow is, I think the children, and the bow is the parents, and that they like you throw, and but it hits or it misses or it goes its own way, but God has mercy on both, on the bow and the arrow. This was very deep as well.
Oh, hang on, Besma has a comment. Yes, the children chapter stayed with me too. I liked what Gibran said about marriage, but let there be spaces in your togetherness, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, meaning that pillars which provide strength and support can only do what they do because they are separated, allowing each person space to grow. Yeah, yeah, that was one of the ones that struck me as well. The children chapter for me, I know it's true, but I don't like it to be true, thinking that my kids just come through me just in a way. I personally grapple with that because I think you always just believe like that your children are yours, but they aren't really. I mean, that sentence is very true. what is it? They come through you, but they're not of you, or you don't, something like that. It's true. It's a true sentence, but I don't want to believe it for some reason. I want them to be like mine. They come through me and they are of me, and end of story. But he makes you look beyond that, definitely. Basma again, also, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. Love the meaning. When I looked it up, an individual cannot grow when standing in the shadow of another. Each must have room to stand in the sun. I don't even remember that one, Basma. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, definitely. Who can relate to that? Who the two passages that Basma has shared? Who can relate to those? Or who does it resonate with? Especially with regards to what we're doing and what you're always doing in terms of your self-development and your personal growth. These two are very significant. So I mean, it's interesting that these are the ones that stood out for you, Basma, while we're in this process. Who else had these, or who else connected with these two?
I did connect with the children part, because I remembered when especially when it says about the bow and how we are the bows and they are the arrow, and we kind of like, need to give them away.
Yes.
Because I remembered when my daughter wanted to go to college in New York, and back then we lived in Houston, and she wanted to go, she's a stylist now, so she wanted to go to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, and she focused on that. She actually wanted to just admit herself in this, admit an application in this one college, and I was like, no, because you might not get into it. And so she goes like, I'm gonna get into it. And then when she got into it, and my dad in Egypt was kind of like, oh, you're not gonna let her live by herself in New York and stuff like that. And my husband was like, I gave her strong wings, I'm not gonna clip her wings now, she needs to fly. That's her passion, that's what she wants to do, that's she's meant to, to fly away, and she's not gonna get that in anywhere in Houston, so she needs to go there. I'm not clipping her wings. And I remember him telling my dad that he's like, I'm not clipping her wings, I'm sending her. I gave her strong wings, and she's going to be able to lead her way. And now she is one of the good stylists in Egypt. So, and she works there, and she's happy that she's, she reached what she wanted. And so that reminded me of what happened, a few years back.
We've all, I think, all the moms here, at some point, we don't have a choice. We have to let go, whether you let them go off to university, whether you don't, but then they have to get married and they're gonna go and leave you anyway. So it is a uncomfortable truth that we all have to be faced with. Of course, not everybody deals with it the same, but it is very, very true. And then as they sort of continue on without you, the truth becomes a little bit more and more uncomfortable. And at some point you realize that one, yeah, they're able to do this because you've actually taught them to be able to live independently, and that you can't stop them living their life. You're absolutely right. They have to go through you and away from you, sadly, but that's how it works.
I like the part about talking.
About talking?
Talking, yes.
Oh, yes.
For example, the one that says, and much of your talking, thinking is half murdered.
Yes.
And things like that. I like that one.
Yes, that was a good one too. Yeah. Yeah. Thinking is half murdered. And much of your talking, thinking is half murdered, which is really a relief for those of us who are very, quiet and generally don't like to speak. I'm very much an introvert. Like I speak a lot with you guys in these groups, but in social settings, I hardly speak at all. And for the longest time, I mean, for me, this section gave me a lot of relief because I'm somebody who doesn't speak a lot unless absolutely necessary. So it sort of fed I'm gonna not make such an effort to speak when I don't want to speak anymore, because I would find myself in situations where I'm just like speaking because it's a social setting and I need to speak, and I'd force myself to speak. But this chapter sort of gave me permission. Again, it's like he's talking to what your soul already knows. My soul already knows. So I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to go back to not speaking if I don't feel there's something important for me to share, and just enjoy the quietness of my thoughts.
Yeah. It says something about how, like it says the spirit dwells in the rhythmic silence, and how the voice within your voice speak to the ear of his ear, for his soul will keep the truth of your heart as the taste of the wine is remembered.
We're
So,
gonna
yeah.
gonna take a month to figure that sentence out. But you connect to the feeling of this sentence.
Yes.
You connect to the feeling, you know what that sentence means. You're not necessarily able to, as we did in English literature, literally deconstruct every word and every comparison and every reference to another piece of literature, and then reference in history and referenced in this other book, which is what would happen if you really, were to analyze each passage. But you feel it. You feel like it hits you on a much deeper level. All of these passages did. So yeah. Who else feels like they just need to be quiet? Nihad.
Me too.
Can you tell? Sorry, Sandra, go ahead. I'll wait
No,
for
no.
you to finish.
I was just gonna say what like Dana was saying. I have like for example, my friends, they are super loud and it's a big group,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's not how you're feeling right now. You're not in that mood.
Yeah.
Or I personally I prefer smaller groups. But anyway, so in the bigger groups, I prefer to be quiet, and so yeah, it was nice that it gives you permission to be quiet.
Yes, gives you permission to be quiet, because that sentence, especially in much of your talking, thinking is half murdered. I mean, there are many times, I'm sure a lot of you can relate, where you try and express yourself, you try and express a thought, and it doesn't come out anywhere near the way it is in your head, whether verbally sometimes or even written. And it literally feels like my thought was murdered. Like my thought was just obliterated. I was not able to verbalize my thought or even write down my thought as eloquently as it is in my head. So this is why, so then what's the point? Let's just keep it safe. Let's keep the thoughts, for me anyway, that's what it felt like. Instead of injuring them or hurting the thoughts by trying to express them, by speaking, especially in where they might not be received the right way, it's just better for me to protect the thought, keep it safe.
Dana, can you tell me again where that part about the speaking? Because I'm just like, I'm very quiet, and I'm actually very conscious about this.
Yeah.
When I go out with anybody,
yes,
if it's just a small group, and with my friends, I'm okay. The close friends, I know they're going to keep the conversation going, and then I can just chip in. But if I'm going out with in-laws and people who I don't go out with a lot, I'm really conscious.
Yes.
And I remember when I read that part, Bardo, I felt exactly the same way as you. I said, oh, it's okay to be like this. And sometimes I can say this to myself, but there are other times when it's just, it's...
Yeah. Protect.
So
This
just
is
remind me again where it is so I can go back and read it and give myself a pat on the back and say it's
in my
okay.
book, it's on page 57, and it's
Okay.
on where it says
Yes,
speak of
then
talking. Yeah.
yes.
It's this is it's like a 1.5 page, that section.
Reason and passion, or which
No,
one?
talking, where it says speak of talking.
Then I have to look up. In my book, it's in a different place.
In the table of contents, it's called on talking. If you
On
have
top.
table of
Okay.
contents.
Okay. I'll go back to that again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Basma, yes, then I'm protecting the thought. Yes. You talk when you cease to be at peace with your thought. Yeah. You know, when I read that, I thought about all the people I know who talk a lot. Who talk nonstop. I'm like, wow, are they really, there's just no kind of peace inside at all? Are their thoughts just a jumble all the time? There's no coherence there. Uh there's no depth there. I mean, I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's literally what I thought. But it automatically went to people I know who talk a lot, and that's almost everybody in my life, by the way. So it's like my husband, my kids, my relative, like everybody I know. I'm, the polar opposite of many people in my family. So I automatically thought of these people in my family, like, oh, so are they not at peace? Are they continuously talking because, they're just something's going on? Exactly, right? Yes. So lots of things to think about. Yeah. Uh, Anybody else?
I also loved the part about friendship.
Mm.
How he describes how friendship should be, and kind of related to it. And of course, it made me think of so many, of my friends in the different situations highlighted, and how I look at them, and how because I lived abroad for the longest time, and I have friends in Egypt, and I have friends here in Houston, and I have friends in Saudi Arabia because I lived a bit in Saudi Arabia as well. And how whenever we meet after a long time, and it just comes back to how it is, and how I think of them when I'm away, and how it just made me think of so many stuff, that those 2 pages about friendship.
Yeah. I think there was one passage in there, basically, where, like, where you don't have to, I think, where you don't have to speak, where it's understood, where they
Yeah.
feel you. And yeah, definitely, if you have friends that you live in another country, 100%, you don't have an opportunity to nurture the way that you might have a friend living in the same country, but you realize you don't actually need to. It doesn't need the daily nurturing. That friendship at its core is there, and the connection is there. Yeah, I mean, just a lot to think about with what he says.
In addition to what Dina just said, in the friendship part, there's this a sentence near the end of the chapter. Seek him always with hours to live. And I think of it as if, so when I meet a good friend, then I enjoy the meeting.
Yes.
Or the conversation, and it is part of life for me.
Yes.
Because there are people you meet, and then they just talk about the weather or the politics and so on, but it does not feed the soul.
No. Mm-mm. Yeah. I'm rereading it again. Yeah, I mean, where he says, your friend is your needs answered.
Yes, as well.
And it's always incredible how, especially if you have friends who are not physically, close to you, like in the same country, where they might send you a message, they might send you a funny meme on Instagram out of the blue, and it's exactly what you need in that moment. Exactly what you need to read, exactly what you need to uplift you, or maybe an inspiring message or something. This happens quite a lot for me with I have a lot of friends who don't live in Egypt, and this happens frequently, where I get a need answered by them without me asking for that need to be met somehow. What do you all think? Oh, does anybody else want to share about
I have
past?
for the ladies.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of much of your pain is self-chosen?
Mm.
What do you think of that one?
Is that the one on pain specifically?
Yes.
Let me open it. Oh, well, I have circled your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. And then much of your pain is self-chosen. It is
Yeah,
the
maybe because it's your mindset. You decide whether you're going to be upset about something or not,
yeah.
and whether to dwell on it or just to let it pass and move on.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is the bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. So the sort of potentially self-inflicted pain that you need in order to heal something that's not working. You need to go through the pain of holding yourself back, one way of understanding it, in order to take yourself forward. In order to get through something difficult, you need to go through the pain. And that breaks you open, breaks the shell, gives you a new understanding on whatever situation you're in, whatever limiting thoughts. I mean, we always talk about how our thoughts are limiting, right? So in order to break out of that is painful. Breaking out of limiting beliefs, limiting thoughts, patterns, the unlearning of patterns, how we talk about unlearning, learning, and relearning, all of that is painful to some level. It's very, very difficult to do that, especially if something is very deeply ingrained. So breaking out of that, breaking that shell, that is painful, but then it changes everything, changes the way you see yourself, the way you see people around you, the way you interpret yourself and people around you in situations. Yeah. Basma. I also think that as we're always told, some of the pain we experience is caused by the way we choose to react or respond to a situation, circumstance, or maybe that's why self-chosen. Yes, that's exactly it, Basma, right? We literally have options in terms of how we react to anything. Every single time you're faced with a situation, with a circumstance, with a person, anything. Think of the thought model, right? Circumstance. Every time you're faced with that, you have a choice how you're going to react. Every single time. This is why it goes back to that one chapter about, the responsibility, the crime and punishment one. It's up to you. If you choose to react by being sad, by being angry, by playing the victim, by regressing, by lashing out, or you can be happy, or you can be uplifted, or you can be inspired by the same situation, by the same circumstance. So it's always up to you. It's always self-chosen.
Something else that I wanted to share
Hmm.
is the part about pleasure.
Hmm.
And it says, oftentimes in denying yourself pleasure, you do but store the desire in the recess of your being.
Hmm.
It's in the second part of pleasure.
Yeah, I underline that one also. Yeah. And then what happens?
I don't know.
When you deny yourself pleasure, what happens? And you keep denying it over and over and over. I mean, regret, right? The most basic level.
I was listening to this podcast recently about same topic of denying pleasure. It was opera, and it has, I can't remember the name of the author that she was interviewing, but she writes about vulnerability and the issue of denying pleasure. Actually, she says something to the effect that it is all kept like inside, and it's usually channeled with different emotions like anger, like depression, um, not living with the present moment. And then she actually mentioned things which make sense to me, at least. Even when you are in a happy moment with your kids, first thing that after a second of enjoying, you always think of something bad. What if something happens to them? What if I shouldn't be that happy?
Yes, yes.
And she was saying that this is actually all bottled inside, and usually it's gets channeled in different ways. And one should live the present moment and should not be, if now it's time to be happy or to enjoy a good moment, we need to be present.
And so basically when you're irritated or angry or upset in one way or another, this is a lack of pleasure coming through.
Yes, and she was saying, think something called the power of doing nothing. Like you have to have some time that is actually to do nothing and play.
Yes. Yeah.
Even when we're grown-ups.
And we don't do that hardly, do we? Or enough?
We actually deprive ourselves, because we say like, I have a free time, so I need to do something. I need to be fixing something. I need to be preparing something.
Free time becomes
Also,
just full of
we
guilt
think
for some reason.
guilt, and we think of pleasure as something that we need to take. So what he was saying at the end of this chapter, he was saying that his pleasure is like it's both you receive it and I mean you're giving it and you're receiving it both. I feel like often we think about the receiving part or the giving. Like, I mean, some people are just about giving and others about just receiving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm rereading that part. Yeah. So you have to be like the flowers and the bees. Yeah. So I'm reading this last sentence, people of Orphalese. Did you guys look up where Orphalese is? It's nowhere. And don't get confused. It's nowhere. It's fictional. And the point, obviously, is that human experience transcends location. Like the message is not relevant to just one geographical location, one geographical city. It's a completely made up place. Doesn't exist anywhere. Not sure about that, he just came up with a very creative name, but it really is about the point where everybody connects. And there's so many points of connection here, like in terms of a human experience, in terms of the experiences of the soul. There's so many points of connection here that he talks about. And it could also be seen, or the name or the city, the imaginary city, could also be seen as the point in you, within any individual, where transformation starts to happen. That part of your soul that either yearns for transformation or is actually undergoing transformation. So it could be sort of a meeting point universally for people to come and receive the prophecies, or it could be just about the individual experience within you. So Orphalese could be the place within you that is where you tap into when you want to transform yourself. So I love that the way he did that. I mean, automatically I went to look up, where is this, in case it was actually a place, but it's not.
There is a sentence also in pleasure. So somewhere in the beginning, he writes about 7 other sisters, and the least of them is more beautiful than pleasure.
This is in which chapter, Marianne?
Also on pleasure.
Also on pleasure? Okay, hang on.
So in the first quarter of the chapter.
Here, okay. 7 are her sisters, and least of them is more beautiful than pleasure. No clue. What was your interpretation of that?
Nothing.
Nothing. Let me see how we can connect it to the ones before.
No, I don't know. Well, maybe
7?
maybe the previous chapters.
And the hermit came for speak of pleasure. Pleasure is a freedom song. It is the blossoming. It is the depth. It is the caged. Truth. Nope.
Nothing.
Go back to that one. Anybody have a clue?
I think he was talking about younger or the youth in the society when they seek pleasure and how they're sometimes judged for what they do. But he thinks that he says here, I would have them seek, for they shall find pleasure, but not her alone. So sometimes, I guess, within the search for this pleasure or whatever pleasurable moments or seeking pleasure, they find other stuff, because at the end he says, have you not heard of the man who was digging in the earth for roots and found a treasure?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, I guess, I don't know how to put it, but that there are things beyond the look for pleasure that happens sometimes and is judged by, the community or the society around you, but then those people end up finding what they really were seeking. So let them seek what.
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't explain
so
it, but
maybe it's seeking the superficial. I don't know. You find that you end up finding what truly matters.
yeah,
Oh,
maybe.
maybe.
I don't know.
Or maybe passion for something.
No. Nope. That's for now. This is I don't have more on this. No. Or maybe he's saying that it's so important to seek pleasure, because you might just be seeking the simple feeling that pleasure gives you. But it's so important to continue to seek pleasure, because in that search of something you just think is just a simple thing that's going to give me maybe just a fleeting good feeling, you're actually going to find something more important and more deep. That your true calling is found in your pursuit of pleasure. And that's why you shouldn't ignore it.
It could be.
Maybe.
Mhm.
And that if you forgo following pleasure or discovering pleasure or just feeling pleasure, then you miss out on a bigger part of who you are, or a bigger part of your calling, or maybe not finding out what your passion is because you've thought that pleasure is trivial. But actually, in seeking pleasure, you find that which is substantial in your life.
Yeah, probably.
Mm. Yeah, maybe. Right? Maybe. All interpretations work. So of all the passages that you've shared so far, and maybe some that you haven't, I mean, I've shared some of them, or were little wake-up calls for me, or just reminding me of things. Which one of them are the passages that really hit most with you in terms of reminding you? Like we said, he's already talking of what we already know, but we're either ignoring it or not focusing on it, or making it wrong. But so much of what he's saying is what we already know. It's like inherent within us, in our soul. So what is it about, or which of the passages are the ones, beyond the ones that you've shared, that just resonate with you? But which are the ones that are reminding you of your own truth, wisdom, that you've forgotten, or you're not trusting? Which of the passages are ones that are reminding you of your wisdom that you're not trusting, or that you've forgotten? That's what I want to ask. How does it? And if it does, how does it remind you? And we could apply that question to the concept of pleasure, right? I think now that I think about it, he's asking us to trust pleasure. Trust your need and desire for pleasure. Trust, your own wisdom when it comes to giving, like Dina said at the beginning. So what parts of you are you're just forgetting to trust because for whatever reason, logic gets in the way, culture gets in the way, teachings get in the way, habits get in the way.
Rumi, he has another quote that says, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will never lead you astray."
Mm. So is it reminding you of what is it you truly love?
What you're saying is what you're saying is when you let yourself be drawn to that. So that's why it reminded me of that. I have it on my picture, that's why.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the really deep messages in here is that. What have we forgotten about ourselves? What are we not trusting? What is our own intuition, our own inner wisdom that we've forgotten to trust, or just not allowed ourselves to trust for whatever reason? No? All right. One final thought. What passage or section of the book do you feel like is a priority for you to carry forward right now in your life, in your relationships, in your habits, your conversations? Which is the one that you would start with if you wanted to transform it? Oh, Nermin. At the beginning, when Al-Mustafa was about to leave on the boat, and when the people in the city knew and asked him to stay and were willing to listen to him, only when he was leaving, it reminded me when we part with loved ones, this is when we wish we connected more. Oh, a bit painful with death. Yes, yes. This is a hard, hard lesson, and not one you can fix, especially when there's death, right? Um, very painful. That's true.
It is very painful.
Mm.
On the other hand,
Mm.
when when the Pope died, so many statesmen came to Rome.
Mm.
So for me, it was okay. He died; he's not here anymore. But on the other hand, all the so many people came. The believers came, the cardinals, and so on and so forth, and also the how do you say it? The world leaders.
Mm.
And maybe, I mean, I don't know, but maybe when they saw each other, they began to talk about how to make peace. It could be, I don't know. But I mean, we saw the picture of Trump and Zelensky.
Yes.
They sat, I think, for a quarter of an hour somewhere in the Vatican, and I mean, maybe after all this pain and sadness, and so maybe something good comes out of it. I don't know.
This
Of
is
course, I mean, it's
yeah.
not to be compared. I mean, it's not to be compared to be compared with a loved one who dies, but it is how can I say it? It's a bit similar in a way that when someone dies, I mean, for me it was like this when my brother died a couple of years ago. The church in Egypt was completely full. You know, so for me it was like a celebration of his life. I mean, of course, me and the family, and so we were all sad and crying and everything. But at the end, it was comforting to see how many people came and how many people shared in the sadness. And so it was a kind of a celebration at the end.
The joy that comes out of the sorrow that he talks about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anybody else want to share with us? Final thoughts.
A final thought is that the book was more relieving and spiritual compared to the other one with the season of migration. That one I threw away.
Yeah,
I
that's
won't. I will certainly
hard.
not
Very
read
hard.
it again.
Yeah. 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 Even though it has all these reminders of, where we're not trusting our intuition, where we're maybe just operating on robot, where we're not stopping and seeking pleasure. It had all these reminders potentially of work that needs to be done, yet it's hopeful. It's hopeful. It doesn't leave you feeling uh overwhelmed. And for me anyway, it doesn't make me feel like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I not doing? How am I missing out on all of this? On the contrary, it is there's something about the feeling he manages to convey. And the feeling he conveys is one of hope, you know? That's all I felt with this book is a lot of hope. Yes, I'm not trusting myself in certain things. Yes, I'm not following my intuition when I should be. But it didn't make me feel less than. Let's put it that way. It didn't make me feel like I'm less than myself. It gave me a lot of hope. No final thoughts, ladies? We're complete with the Prophet. All right, ladies. So we will end that today. Beautiful conversation and discussion about the Prophet. Next week, we will have a call, primary food call, about movement, about food, about the physical. We'll get into that next week. And if you have any questions at all, you know what to do. Post in the group. Our next book is kind of similar in spirit to this one, which is Siddhartha. Again, it's deceptively short, but it's kind of along the same lines where you need to take your time with it. If you finished it already, then definitely I recommend you move on to the longer ones coming up. And I will see you all next week. Same time, same place, ladies. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your evening or rest of your day. Bye, ladies. You're welcome.
Dana. Dana.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I wanted to share just something very quickly,
Please.
not related to the book.
Go ahead.
Not
Go ahead.
related.
Go ahead.
I noticed something when I was doing the fruits only,
Hmm.
that I was actually remembering things. It was weird, like like things I thought I forgot all about it, and it was stored in the past, and things kept coming back. Memories kept coming back.
Lift.
So I just wanted to share that with you
It
guys.
lifts the
That was-
clutter, it lifts the fog. Yeah, not surprising. No, it can do that. Very, very powerful. It can do that. Thank you for sharing, Sandra.
It's good.
All right. Okay, ladies.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.